everyone, welcome. My name's Kathy A, and today I'm going to do a special video all about L'Oreal cosmetics. Now L'Oreal also has an expansive hair and skincare line, but I'm just going to focus today on the cosmetics. I'm going to do a little bit of a history of the company and the brand to keep you up to date. I did speak recently with PETA about L'Oreal just to get up-to-date information. And I think you're going to find the story rather interesting. But first I think I'm going to do a tutorial. I'm going to do my makeup from flat to this. Well, I don't know if you think this is flat, I don't know. But I'm going to show you how I started, how I got here using all L'Oreal products. And we will then go into the history of the brand. And then I'll be back with you for a short comment at the end. So, through the magic of video, let's go back in time, and I'll be back with you in a few minutes.
Whirlwind tour time for L'Oreal Cosmetics, starting off with the Magic Lumi Primer. I actually have a little too much on my hand. I'm doing it on one side of my face. Now this is a very kind of shimmery primer, and although it covers really nicely and smoothly and absorbs quickly, it's very glossy, shiny. On the other side, we're using Revitalift Miracle Blur, and this is a moisturizer, but it's kind of being touted as a skin primer, a really nice base between your skin and makeup. And I'm using that on the other side of my face, just kind of tapping it in and putting it into the St. Bernard lines and Frankenstein ridges and around my nose. Now we're using the Decrease. This is the Magic Decrease Eye Primer, and it's got a slight tint to it, so it does cover up capillaries and other kind of nasty lines in your eyes. Now we're using the True Match Lumi Luminous Makeup in N1-2. Now these are all color coordinated. I was pleased to see they had a neutral, a warm, and a cool section, and they had lights, mediums, and darks in each of the types. I went with neutral because I thought that neutral should be just about anybody. I'm not particularly warm or particularly cool toned, but I did mix and match with some of the makeup today. Now it blended in really nicely. There wasn't too much of a scent to it, and it covered really well, and it didn't really sink into the pores at first, but later when it dried I noticed it was really stuck in little lines that I had, and you could see it quite when you got close up. Now I'm just sort of patting down the edges, make sure everything's smooth. We're going into the True Match powder, and that's in W1, which is warm, first one. It's in Fair, and I'm using their powder puff. I'm just pressing it in. I'm not swishing it across because I don't want to screw up all my makeup. I'm just kind of patting it in, and I'm going extra lot on the one side there with the shimmer. Now this is the True Match blush in Cool 1-2. It has a brush in the bottom, which I didn't use. And this is actually a very pleasant blush. It went on really easily and blended really nicely on both sides. And I'm doing the 10 and 2 there, and down in the décolleté a little bit. Now this is the True Match concealer in Fair, which is 1, 2, and 3, and that's the Cool Fair. And I'm just using a flat foundation brush, doing that little Kim Kardashian triangle thing. But actually this concealer dried very, very patchy and did not really look that great. From a distance it's okay, but when you get up close you can see all the little flakies and patches and my wrinkles. Little surprise here, I'm using the concealer stick for N678, which is actually a darker skin person's concealer. I'm just blending it with my fingers, and it actually blended out quite nicely. Although there is a little bit of a yellowy orange tone to this brown, I thought it was quite an impressive blend. And now I'm using actually an eyeliner. It's highlighter is the color, and it's an infallible eyeliner. Out of all of the lines that L'Oreal has, the Infallible line is the one that I like the most. It seemed to have the most age-friendly kind of ingredients in their products. And I just used a little on my eyes as well as my upper cheeks. And it really does highlight. Now this is the All Over Mineral Glow, and the color is Nude Glow. Now it has its own brush built in. It's a powder. You sift it into the cup, and then I put it back on the top there and stick the brush in. I'm using my own brush because I didn't like theirs. Just tapping off the excess, taking it down to the décolleté, and a slight swish over my skin just for an all-over slight glow. It was okay. I looked healthier. Putting all that wrapping back on because you know what's happening after this. Alright, now going into the eyes. This is the Color Rich Eyeshadow Quad in Cup of Joe. These are all matte shades, and there's a really nice variety of creams and neutrals, so you have stuff for your lid. I'm using the lightest color. I guess that's cream in your Cup of Joe. I'm using that on my lid. Not very pigmented, but they are very creamy. Using a little underneath my brow. Now I'm going into that kind of a taupey, muted, brownish light tan for my crease color. And I'm just adding a little bit at a time. These medium light browns are very nice for crease colors, and they are matte, so I was pleasantly surprised with that. Out of all of the eye palettes, this is the one that I thought was the most good for a basic eye anyway. Most good. Using the darker color in the outer corner just to get, like, I guess you could stop right there with a basic eye, but of course you know me, I'm going to keep going. I dropped it. Okay, now these Infallible eyeshadow singles are really interesting colors, and they're extremely pigmented. I like this little trash can top. I'm making pretend I'm playing a cymbal there. Having fun. Okay, and I'm pushing it down. It's pressed pigments. Now I'm sticking my brush in just very lightly, but it's so pigmented, it's unbelievable. The color is Smoldering Plum, and I really like it. It's very, very nice. It spread well, and if I were to wet my brush with water and stick it in there, I would have a really strong eyeliner. So these things are really versatile, but they are the same price as the quads, so you only get one color for the same price. Now the Brow Stylist Shaping Duet, this is blonde. It's supposed to be dark blonde and light blonde. I'm just going to use the light blonde color because that was dark enough to make my eyebrows stand out. But I think it's cool that they had a darker shade in there and a sharpener. It's a waxy feel to this kind of pencil, so if you don't like that, you probably will want to try something else. But it is kind of a wax and a color in one, and it did a pretty good job, and my brows stayed all day. Now the next thing is the Double Extend Eye Illuminator in Black Emerald. One side is light, one side is kind of a dark blackish green. And the dark color went on fine. It's kind of a generic eye pencil, a little too hard. You can't tight line with it. And this light color is disappointing. I thought it would be a nice creamy consistency, but it isn't. It's like crayons, and it was just too harsh. Now I'm curling my lashes, and I'm counting to 8 on each side. Of course, we're in our speed up mode, so you can't tell that. This is the original Telescopic Intense Mascara. And this is, a lot of people love this one, and I had not ever tried it before. I don't care for that bendy wand on the end, although I do like the fact that it's so skinny. You can get really close to your eyelash base, and you can almost tight line with it. Now it took about 4 coats to get it to this point where I thought I had really nice honkin' lashes. And the one thing I did discover is because that wand bends so easily, it seemed to spray out little specks all over my face. I had to do a lot of cleanup with that. As you can see what I'm doing now, I have to get a Q-tip and clean up a lot of the specks. It got way down on my cheek and everything. I was surprised. But it did do a really nice lash. It wasn't clumpy, and I was pleased with it after the 4th coat. I'm just making a face because I'm seeing how that dried, the foundation dried and looks patchy. Moving on now to the lips. and this is the Color Rich Anti-Feathering Lip Liner in Timeless Coral, and it's a very smooth line. And then this is the designer line, the Collection Privé. This is J-Lo's, Jennifer Lopez's nude number 370. And it's actually a really pretty pink nude color. I was very happy with this. And I decided to try the Infallible Plumping Lip Gloss in Pumped Tawny. This is number 806, and it goes on really nice, little doe foot applicator. It looks a lot like the lip color, so I thought it blended really nicely. And my nails. This is the purple. It is called Butterfly Kisses, number 380, and it went on very streaky. It was awful. I have 4 coats on. It chipped in weird places. I didn't like a thing about it, except I thought the color was awful pretty. So the L'Oreal nail polishes were a fail. Bye now.
So I pulled the scarf off, and this is the final look. So it actually was not bad. I think L'Oreal really needs to get a bronzer, because they definitely lacked in that department. And I had originally bought this glow stuff thinking it was a bronzer, but it actually is a glow. And it settles into wrinkles and fine lines, so this is definitely not a product I would go nutso over in the store or ever purchase. There's some good things here and some bad things here, but everything's going back to CVS, and the reason is I want you to see the story of L'Oreal. So here's a little like five minute or so history of L'Oreal.
In France of 1907, a young chemist named Eugene Schuler created a hair dye from harmless chemicals, and he called this formula L'Oreal. He filed for the patent in 1908. It was a beautiful hair dye, much more natural looking than the henna dyes available at the time. Eugene wrote articles for a trade magazine he later bought. It was called La Coiffure de Paris, and he was the first to write about doing a patch test to check for allergic reactions and color hue when coloring hair. Eugene distributed this hair color to all the hairstylists in Paris and invited them to a special school to teach them how to do the hair coloring. After World War I was over, the Roaring Twenties began, and women's haircuts were short and very, very interesting colors. Women became concerned about covering their gray because they didn't want to reveal their age, and they wanted to look hip. In 1925, Eugene invented L'Oreal Dior, the first hair lightening product. It created golden shimmer tints, and it was spectacular for dyeing hair slightly lighter color. In 1928, with the popularity of his hair dye reaching all around Europe, he bought Savon Francais Plant, which was a soap company, would later become L'Oreal's headquarters. Using Savon's soap formulas and adapting them to hair, Eugene invented a foaming hair wash called Eau Cap. This was the beginning of a French hygiene revolution. Up to now, French women hadn't really washed their hair very often, so this was something to inspire them to do so. He had a team of scientists who created a new dye that was able to penetrate the hair root. It was called Imedia, and it is the first permanent hair color. In the early 1930s, Jean Harlow and other actresses had platinum blonde hair, and it was very attractive. Women wanted hair that looked like this, so L'Oreal created L'Oreal Blanc, the first blonding powders. In 1931, Eugene draped his entire building in a giant sheet billboard promoting his Eau Cap products. This called for huge sales all around Europe. In other types of advertising, like radio, Eugene insisted that his ad copy be sung rather than spoken, thus creating the first of the early jingles. In 1933, Eugene used his publishing skills to create a women's magazine devoted to health and beauty. Votre Beauté was a monthly advertising dream for L'Oreal. It featured articles about improving women's appearance and lifestyle. In 1933, Eugene's team invented Dopal, also known as DOP. It was the first shampoo that did not have soap flakes in it, and it did not leave a residue. Shampoo actually is from the Hindi word meaning champo, which means to massage or to knead. In 1935, women were getting out a lot more and showing a little more skin. Suntan was now considered the hallmark of health. Eugene created a suntan oil called Ombre Soleil. In 1940, L'Oreal opened a hairdressing academy that taught all aspects of the business and hairstyling. And, as far as the soap went, they added milk to the soap to make it far more creamy and more appealing to the mass public. On the dark side, Eugene was funding the French violent fascist group La Cagoule. This group supported the Nazis in their efforts to take over Europe. After the war, Eugene hired several members from this group to be executives in his L'Oreal branches. Jacques Corrèze was actually CEO of the U.S. branch. Eugene's daughter, Lalénia, married a man named André Betancourt. He was a Nazi propagandist who was quoted once as saying, "The Jews, their race is tainted with Jesus' blood for all eternity." André worked for the Hitler minister Goebbels. After the war, while all the war criminals were being gathered up, President Mitterrand protected Eugene's son-in-law André from persecution for what he had done, and he wound up being a future CEO at L'Oreal. In 1945, Coco Chanel, a young fashionista, inspired women to have short curls, and to get them, they had to get a permanent wave. L'Oreal introduced the very first cold wave. It was called OREAL, and it was an instant hit. You can see why. Forget about the iHeartRadio tour. DOP had a tour, and they had lively musicians and free street shows for anyone who would watch. Go west, young man, they said, and so they did. L'Oreal opened their first store in America. Called Cosmere, it's actually cosmetics for hair. And they expanded globally to Australia, to Canada, to South America, and all over Europe. In 1954, L'Oreal acquired Vichy, a luxury skincare beauty powerhouse. They make Dermablend and La Roche-Posay. Eugene Schuler passed away in 1957, and in his place at top of the heap was André Betancourt, of course. But the CEO that they were showing, and on the L'Oreal site will show, is Mr. Dallet, who actually was in charge of operations. The Golden Goddess was born in 1960. Elnet hairspray, a staple in salons to this day, was released in 1960. Also, 1960 saw the start of easy home care coloring with the release of Belle Color. Sold in drugstores, but on the high end price-wise, L'Oreal was considered the queen of drugstore makeup and hair care. Obao is actually a revolutionary bath product, a foaming bath, to make bath experience much more than just a bar of soap and a face cloth. In 1964, L'Oreal acquired Lancôme, a luxury makeup, skincare, and perfume line. Kerastase line was introduced to hair salons as the finest hair color products available. And in 1965, L'Oreal acquired Garnier. Beautiful women all over the world were discovering the name L'Oreal. In 1966, Guy Laroche teamed with L'Oreal to release its first luxury perfume. They called it Fiji. A woman is an island, and Fiji is her perfume. With the release of Recital, women at home all over the world could color their own hair in the privacy and save a trip to the hairdresser. In 1970, L'Oreal acquired Biotherm, which was an organic skincare company that based their products on natural streams. L'Oreal began opening research labs and factories. This one, called Syntholabo, was one of their facilities, and yes, they did do animal testing. They used all sorts of animals, like cats and dogs, that's hairspray, and rabbits, of course. And ironically, the slogan, "Because I'm worth it," came out with their product line. They acquired Nestle in 1974, and they are the makers, of course, of a variety of different foods, from hot cocoa to candy, to dog food, to water and juicy juice. Skincare was all the rage, and Vichy led the way with their extraordinary moisturizers. Also, Anais was released as another very popular selling perfume. And 1979 saw the opening of yet another lab, this time in Nice, France. This lab basically tests and develops skincare products. In 1980, that little tube of moisturizer was added to hair color box kits. And in 1981, L'Oreal opened yet another lab. This one, Galderma, is probably their most notorious. They studied skin conditions such as psoriasis, rosacea, and acne, and it's their most successful lab. From that research, Plentitude was released as one of the first official serious skincare products available in the drugstore. And of course, where would we be without Dracar Noir? The men's fragrance is probably one of the world's favorite. Cosmetics were released in 1980s, and Andie MacDowell, a very popular actress, was spokesperson. In 1983, Garnier introduced us to nature-based shampoos, and L'Oreal opened a lab in Japan. In 1985, the Studio line was created and quite popular with the young folks. In 1985, Ralph Lauren joined the L'Oreal team, and they released Polo, the world's most top-selling fragrance of all time. Now, L'Oreal decided to get into the mail order business, and they used other different sub-company cosmetics as well as their own, and this particular mail order system was very popular until finally in 2013 they stopped. Biotherm released a skincare line just for men. This is becoming quite popular now, especially in the gay community. And L'Oreal sponsored Look Good, Feel Better, which was a charity that helped women with cancer. They would donate cosmetics for free to cancer patients. 1989 was also the year they acquired Helena Rubinstein and La Roche-Posay. And they released Tresor perfume, the world's #1 selling perfume at the time, and still in the top 10. In 1992, they sponsored the charity Women in Need, which helped women get training and jobs and help shelters. They also opened a factory in Aulnay-sous-Bois for hair care and color research. L'Oreal's major competitor in the salons was Redken, so they bought it. In 1993, L'Oreal signed a pact with PETA, claiming they were cruelty-free and that they would no longer test on animals. It was later discovered that that wasn't quite true, and unfortunately, PETA has put them back on their testing companies list. In 1994, they released Excellence, the finest home care coloring kit of all time. Ceramide R was created. It's a synthetic hair follicle that attaches itself to real hair, and it was used in a lot of hair care products. L'Oreal built a factory and were allowed to operate it in India. And this was kind of groundbreaking, for outside companies had not up to this time been allowed to do so. Revitalift, the facelift in a jar, was released in 1995. And Maybelline was purchased in 1996. And they got access to their Chinese factory contacts and opened their own in China. Garnier introduced us to Fructis, a very popular organic line, very popular with a hip young crowd. L'Oreal teamed up with Giorgio Armani and created the scent Acqua di Gio. It's one of the top 10 men's fragrances of all time. In 1994, while doing research for his book Bitter Scent, author Michael Bar Zohar outed L'Oreal head Andre Betancourt for his involvement with the Nazis. Now, Betancourt spent 5 years in prison, but just before that, he moved all of his shares of L'Oreal to his wife, Lalena. L'Oreal became more socially aware, possibly because of this incident, and formed the L'Oreal Foundation, which supported women in science, which awarded women around the world for their scientific achievement. And in 2000, they bought Kiehl's, a luxury organic skincare company, and they bought Matrix, another foe of theirs from the hair salon industry. In 2000, L'Oreal purchased Dermablend, and they merged it with their Vichy line. It's a very effective cover-up used for people with scars or tattoos. And also in 2000, this is when PETA discovered that L'Oreal was not, in fact, keeping their vow of non-testing. L'Oreal was indeed testing animals, and also their Chinese factory was testing their finished products. In 2004, L'Oreal received the Diversity Leadership Award for their outstanding diversified employees around the world. And they teamed with Victor and Ralph to release Flower Bomb, one of the most popular women's scents of the day. And yes, another factory opened in China in 2005. They actually got involved with AIDS and educated their hairdressers on AIDS with pamphlets and literature, and asked the hairdressers to pass the information along to their clients. In 2005, L'Oreal acquired SkinCeuticals. It was a brand used by doctors and plastic surgeons, dermatologists. In 2006, Proxylane, an anti-aging ingredient, was created using beechwood extract. It simulated healthy skin molecules and was now used in Lancôme, Vichy, and L'Oreal skin products. In an attempt to quell all the PETA outrage over the animal testing discovery, L'Oreal acquired Skin Ethic Laboratories. This was a lab that did entirely synthetic and alternative testing methods. Good timing, too, because L'Oreal bought The Body Shop, a vegan-friendly makeup and healthcare and skincare line. And they sponsored the Women of Worth Foundation. This was for women who made a difference in their communities or made a difference in science area. And this was awarded every year since 2006. In 2007, L'Oreal purchased Pureology, a high-end American salon color company, and they created the L'Oreal Foundation, an attempt at social responsibility by helping those in need. In 2008, L'Oreal bought Yves Saint Laurent, affectionately known to us YouTubers as YSL, and that also includes the line by Stella McCartney and many others. In 2009, L'Oreal celebrated 100 years of beauty, and they were named the Company of the Year by a magazine poll. Essie, famous for their nail colors, was purchased in 2010. And a new factory was built, this time in Russia. In 2011, they bought Clarisonic, the people that make Clarisonic, and turned that world around. They also started a children's line and touted the slogan, "Because we're worth it." And this is another promotional poster for Women of Worth for 2012. Another factory was opened, and this one was in Lyon, and they actually purchased Urban Decay, which infuriated PETA and lots of animal rights activists. Even though owned by L'Oreal, Urban Decay remains cruelty-free and refuses to sell or have any products tested in China. Good for them. And these are just some of the newer makeup items that came out from L'Oreal as of lately. Eva Longoria was one of their spokesmodels. They have very beautiful women representing them. And they have wonderful ad campaigns, beautiful posters. Jennifer Lopez started to open the ethnic community to L'Oreal. And Julianne Moore, a longtime L'Oreal model, actually helped with the aging makeup promotions. L'Oreal continues to purchase factories around the world. This one they plan to open in Kenya. And this one is in Paris. It is another hair research lab. Now Liliana, who is the daughter of Eugene, is the richest woman in the world, and she gets 27.5% of all L'Oreal sales.
It's so amazing when you research a cosmetic line and find out all this information. It's kind of exciting to pass this information along, but up to you. You have to use your spending dollars for your politics. Maybe you just want to deny the whole thing and just go in and it's just eyeshadow, and not get political about it. But I look at it as every time I buy a L'Oreal product, I'm supporting animal cruelty, and until everything is settled there and that PETA puts them on the no testing list, I'm going to continue to not use them, and everything's getting returned that I used in the demo today. But anyway, a lot of you had requested that I do L'Oreal, and I had held off on doing this brand for that reason, because I can't promote them. I don't care how pretty some of the stuff is, I just can't promote it. And I mean, not that it really matters what I think about anything, but I just want you to have the information so that you can make a choice when you go into the drugstore. There are so many brands out there that are cruelty-free that do the same or better a job in the makeup department. So just give it a thought, that's all I'm asking, and hope you enjoyed today's video. I'll be back next week. I'll be doing IT Cosmetics, and I think I've got something from everything in the line. I'll have to tell you, it was one of the most expensive things I ever had. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to return a lot of these things either, because it's Ulta and they're hardcore with me. So anyway, have a wonderful week, everybody, and have a beautiful day. Take care. Toodles.